Hello. So I wanted to continue our videos that we're doing for our small group leaders at New Life Brookfield Church. So one of the topics that we were going to look at was basically about Christianity, reconciling Christianity with science and dealing with natural theology. So I was going to tackle this in a series of short videos. So this is the introduction to that series. And I just wanted to kind of bring up something that I do in the biology class that I teach. So I'm an adjunct biology professor at Triton College. And one of the things that I do in my class is that when we go over the unit on evolution, where we have a couple weeks where we talk about evolution, and I have a discussion forum that I allow the students to participate in, and it's an extra credit assignment. It's not required, but I offer this discussion forum for them to participate in to get extra credit. And I just wanted to read the discussion prompt that I have that I offer to the students, and then I'll kind of talk about what my response is to that discussion forum. So I'll offer the students the opportunity to submit their own responses, and then after they've had some time to submit their own responses, then I'll submit my response to it and just kind of let them know where I stand on the topic. So here's the discussion prompt. In this unit, we have learned about biological evolution, how evolutionary thought developed and became a foundational theory in biology, and some of the evidence that supports evolution. Biological evolution has been a controversial topic because some have feared it was diminishing or eliminating the role of a supreme being or divine origin for life and its diversity, and others have used it as evidence to promote the belief in a completely naturalistic closed system with no supernatural or divine influence. Based on what we have learned in this unit and your own research and understanding, does evolution by means of natural selection necessitate a completely materialistic, in other words, naturalistic explanation for the diversity of life, the origin of life, and the formation of the universe that would eliminate the possibility of a supernatural or divine influence? Please explain your answer. So that's the discussion prompt. So I have then a response that I give to that to let them know what my own thoughts are in this. And this delves into this topic of reconciling Christian faith with science and also natural theology. And so I just kind of wanted to present my response there to this in a series of videos. So I'll continue on with kind of my basic response for the introduction here. So my basic response is this. As a theist, specifically a Christian, I believe that God ultimately created the universe and all that is in it, along with establishing all the laws of physics and nature, as well as the natural processes within it, including natural selection. Biological evolution, primarily by means of natural selection, doesn't replace or eliminate the possibility or need for a supreme being. What biological evolution does is show a natural mechanism or process by which the diversity of life could have and likely did arise. This process could have been established and guided by a supreme being. Some have tried to use biological evolution as evidence that there is no need for a supreme being, that all of what we observe in the natural world can be explained by completely natural materialistic phenomenon. This view is known as materialism or naturalism, and is the belief that the material world is all that exists. However, using biological evolution as the definitive proof of such a view severely oversteps what biological evolution provides. Biological evolution, for example, doesn't explain how life originated or how the universe came into existence. It simply provides a mechanism, an explanation for the diversity of life we observe in nature that may or may not have been established and guided by a creator. And then, so that's my basic response. And then I go on to talk about just kind of comparing theism, the belief in God, the belief that there is a supreme being, a creator, and kind of contrasting that with naturalism or materialism or atheism. So if we compare theism, which is the belief in an intelligent supreme being who created the universe and all that is in it, with materialism, which is the belief that the material world is all that there is, and the material or natural sources can be used to explain everything in the universe. If we compare and contrast these two ideas in the marketplace of ideas, I believe that theism proves to be the most convincing of the two. So then what I have that's going to be in the next videos are basically 8 different reasons why I think that theism, a belief in a divine origin, a belief in a creator, a belief in God, is far superior to theism, to atheism, materialism, naturalism, that basically believes that the material world is all there is and everything can be explained simply by looking at materialistic and naturalistic means. And a lot of these ideas that I have, I've gotten from different sources over the years that I've looked at, and just some different. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but some different ideas, some different sources that you can look at if you're interested in furthering your study on this topic. Here's a number of books that I've used in the past. So there's Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. He wrote this in the late 1930s, 1940s. Actually, he didn't write it then. It was based on a series of radio addresses that he did during World War II that just kind of really gives a good overview into where Christian theology is and delves into some apologetics and just kind of explaining the rationalism behind Christianity. Another book that's kind of almost like a modern look at kind of Mere Christianity that was written by Timothy Keller is called The Reasons for God. So that's another really great book to read. It's kind of a more contemporarily written, just kind of, and with more contemporary understanding, in a lot of ways in the same vein that C.S. Lewis wrote Mere Christianity. But it's its own book, and it's a great book as well. And then another one that's very recent is The Problem of God by Mark Clark. That's another great book to look at. That delves with, I think there's like 7 or so kind of questions in here, objections that people often kind of like stumbling blocks that a lot of times people who are seeking or searching into Christianity. Actually, there's 10 in here. So there's 10 different problems that people raise when they're looking at Christianity, and he addresses all of those. So it's a really well done book. Another book that I would recommend is The Language of God. It's written by Francis S. Collins, who is a Christian scientist who he was the director of the Human Genome Project, which mapped the human genome. And then also he was more recently the director of the National Institutes of Health. So you might have heard of him recently because he's been in the news, related to just, the whole COVID-19 pandemic and stuff. So he had a lot of involvement with dealing with the National Institutes of Health, dealing with the pandemic. And then that this book talks about his spiritual journey, how he came to faith. He was basically an atheist or an agnostic, and he eventually came to faith. And it talks about his journey into that, and just kind of some of the reasons why he thinks that faith in God, and specifically Christianity, really is compatible with science and supported, and a logical a logical conclusion to come to. Another book that I would recommend is The Improbable Planet by Hugh Ross. This book talks about basically the earth and the formation of the earth, going back all the way from Big Bang cosmology to the formation of the earth to evolutionary history all the way up to humans, and how each step along the way was required to get to the point where we are now, and how it's incredibly improbable that this could have happened on its own without a divine influence guiding it each step along the way, and that everything along the way from the fact that we have a moon the size of our moon to the fact that we have planets like Saturn and Jupiter, these big gas planets that are outside of the orbit of the Earth, a little bit further out in the solar system, that help shield us from a lot of meteors that otherwise would wipe out life on Earth. All sorts of things, how they were necessary each step along the way to get us to a point where you could have intelligent beings like humans created in the image of God that can have a relation and desire a relation with the Creator. So that's a really good book. And then the most recent one that I'm reading, I'm almost done with it. I haven't quite finished it. It is called Is Atheism Dead by Eric Metaxas. This is a really good book that talks about just kind of a lot of the latest research into in science related to cosmology, Big Bang cosmology, related to the anthropogenic principle, or I'm sorry, the anthropic principle, and just everything from like cell structure, the origin of life and cells. Also deals in archaeology and significant archaeological findings that reaffirm the biblical historical narrative that we find in the Bible. And basically just kind of the book is basically just kind of reinforcing how a theistic viewpoint, specifically a Christian viewpoint, is far superior and more intellectually robust and just more logical and rational than an atheistic perspective or worldview. So those are some of the resources that we do. In the next videos, I'm going to talk about basically 8. So there's going to be one video for each of these 8 different topics that I kind of have come up with over the years on my own, of just what for me really seems to be kind of the key reasons why I think the theistic perspective, and specifically the Christian worldview, is far superior, far more logical and rational, and backed up by what we actually observe in the universe around us, than an atheistic or materialistic worldview. So check out those videos next. Thanks.